This natal chart reading is for Amanda. Thank you so much for interest in this reading. To look at your natal chart, I like to start by getting a feel for your big three, the ascendant or the rising, the sun, and the moon sign. This helps just provide the fundamentals of the consciousness, including the ego, the first impressions, and then the deep instinctual needs and desires, all that make us human. Then we'll look into the little three, the other personal planets that impact our personality. Then sometimes I jump around, to be honest, after that. I like to just see what's calling me. But the real structure, I think, comes from the beginning because that helps us get an idea for the energy that you're giving and receiving into this human experience. So, with that being said, you have a Gemini rising. So, the Mercury ruled Gemini ascendant is a energy that comes into this world really ready to play the part of the student. This is the student mind because it's the always ready to receive new information. I joke that if the scientific method was a person, it would be a Gemini. It is always trying to test a hypothesis, gather data, really experience as much as possible to learn as much and become aware. So I feel like that's the key word in a Gemini rising is really wanting to become aware of the self and aware in every experience that they come across. And there's many for a Gemini rising. This is the sign of variety and duality. They need to be involved in building the bridges of communication from human to human. Whenever there's a Gemini rising, whether or not they're extroverted, they're still going to be involved in communicating with people in some way. It is the major way that they do experience and learn and collect this data that they came here to do. So whether or not you're extrovert just means that doesn't mean that you're a look at me type of person, but it means that there's some part of you that wants to be involved in what is going on. Where is everyone? I want to be there. I want to experience a variety of people, places, and things. When the Gemini rising first comes into a new situation, their mind is going 1,000 miles a second. They're really collecting information on how people are talking, how they look, what's the vibe. They really are analytical in their approach of meeting people. They want to understand before wanting to be understood. They're trying to accurately assess new situations. So Gemini people think they like to talk, but a Gemini rising is the one that first comes into the room, and people might think they are a little timid. They might think maybe this person, really doesn't like to take the first move. But that's just because the Gemini rising person, almost similar to the Virgo rising person, that Mercury ruled energy, they're not there to gather fans and create attention and take the spotlight. They're there first to assess the scene. So it takes them a little bit before they figure out where they fit into this scene. The mutable energy of a Gemini rising can really give people, any type of person, what they need to feel comfortable and socialize. But the first thing they want to do is understand correctly. So they might come off actually a little quiet while they're letting this new situation kind of update their mind of what it is that's going on here. The Gemini person, while they're interpreting the information, people who experience the Gemini person in a new situation, they might find them to be very intellectual. Maybe they have a really vast vocabulary. Maybe they're really up to date on current events. Maybe they are a very interesting type of presence because they represent the duality. Maybe they're surprised to learn that you would be interested in coming to this place. Maybe they have an opinion of how you are in one scene, and they learn that people are more dynamic than they thought. So Gemini's here to show all of us that we can have childlike curiosity our whole life. It is an ageless phenomenon to carry this with you. And Gemini rising gets to share that with all of us when we first meet because they have this pure energy of curiosity and they kind of help smash stereotypes. It's a it's an air sign, so it is about communicating, and it's adaptable energy. So you might find that you're called to many new experiences. The Gemini energy here needs variety to keep this curiosity alive. So if you find yourself jumping from one group situation, social events, it could even be jobs to get the ascendance experience that it's looking for, different subjects that you might be interested that draws you to different classes, different walks of life with different people, different classes, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different restaurants, different cafes. Gemini risings just want to get as much out of life to experience all the levels of humanity that they can. So it's a very moving rising sign. You're going to be drawn to variety. The spice of life is to never stay stagnant. Moving on to your sun sign, a Pisces sun near the MC. So our MC is the top of the chart. It's where we look up, physically look up. If we are looking up at a tree, it's the top, the MC and the IC create our roots in the IC, and the top of the tree in the MC where we aspire to be one day. So whatever planet is up there is going to be a focal point of the chart simply because we're always aspiring to get there. So to have the sun up there, also have your Mercury up there, you're going to be drawn towards some type of public life. So where some planets down at the bottom would pull you more towards a private life, yours is actually empty. The energy in this life comes from taking some type of public position, some types of public energy, the image, the reputation, the career. If you are going to any type of social event or you meet someone at a party, eventually they're going to ask you what you do for a living. This is the energy of creating a name for yourself. Your sun sign is in this conversation. Your ego is attached to whatever it is that you answer with. What do you do? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting paid for it, but it's some type of vocation. In our society, it is closely related to how we make money. What did our schooling lead us to? It doesn't have to be. But whatever your answer is, when somebody says, what do you do? It's closely attached to your whole identity, and it needs to be publicly appreciated or put you publicly in the reputation that you want to embody the ego, the sun, our main identity. The sun is the shining spot on our chart. Wherever we shine in our life is the sun sign. They say if you're ever off course and you just are confused in life and you just have no direction, follow the sun. So for you in the sign of Pisces, it's really complementary to your rising sign. It's a mutable energy now on an emotional level. The Gemini energy, when you first come into a new situation, is assessing the scene, collecting data, wanting to understand the situation on an intellectual plane. Now, your Pisces sun, your conscious energy, your available identity, wants to connect and assess on an emotional level. The compassionate unspoken collective consciousness. I want to identify as an energy that receives, flows through, and continues the current of the human collective consciousness on the emotional plane. So it's the kind of energy where people don't have to talk to you about what's going on. You can get a feeling. It's a emotional pull. It's an intuitive feeling. It's the type of place where you kind of know without words if this is where you belong or if it is not your vibration that you're trying to achieve. It's the spiritual cleanser and the spiritual sponge. So the Pisces sign is the last of the 12. So it has a little bit of all of it in it. And it's going in the both ways of the human experience. So the fish that seem to be going in different ways. One's going towards the spiritual, raising the human consciousness to a new spiritual level of understanding. The other one is beyond the veil into the other plane past this one. So it's kind of these torn energies. You're always kind of one foot in this reality, one in another of the beyond that most of the human consciousness is not aware of on this level. But the Pisces has the ability to do that. It has the ability to connect to the spiritual plane. And then it kind of just flows it through both sides. So it's a draining sun sign sometimes because the ego can't be as strong when it's constantly being pulled into these spiritual energies. But with a sun and an ascendant and a mutable energy, it flows a little smoother. There's not a full stop anywhere. It's going in, it's going out. It has the gift of the mercurial ability to communicate, and now it has the Pisces energy to help keep the spiritual energies flowing. So you get somebody who, when combined, is able to speak and connect with people who are not on a level of spiritual awareness. It brings words to spiritual levels that otherwise don't know how to be pulled into conscious awareness. So you might find that you run into people and you're able to just speak to them on how they're feeling and you're correct. And they have maybe not even told you anything, but once you put words to it, now they understand better in a language that they can hear and see, and it's become real. And they can help get overcome whatever spiritual malady they were facing. Pisces can be the spiritual martyr in that way. They constantly are bringing other energies up around them because they usually are on a higher spiritual vibration, unless they fall victim to addictions. Self-pity can be, the plummeting unfortunate events that happens to the ego. So if we're in a good place, if Pisces hasn't let all of their spiritual energy become self-defeating because they're giving too much, then they're really in a place where they can bring others up into their own healing and feeling better just for being around a Pisces sun energy. It can be draining. And the Pisces sun person who lives this ego, this is their constant state, just has to make sure that they give themselves time to protect that energy too, because it's not a never ending supply. It does need to be refueled, and it needs to do that in a self protective state where it's not being subjected to other people's energies. Your vessel of spiritual energy is always influenced by who you're around. So this would be more of a private setting of meditation or whatever it does to make you feel re-energized away from other people's energies. Okay, so let's go to your moon sign. Here we have a Scorpio moon. So now we have another water, but instead of it being mutable, it's like the fixed energy. The moon, unfortunately, does not love being in the sign of Scorpio because it is an ever-changing planet. The moon is always changing. It's just like the phases of the moon, our emotional state is always ebbing and flowing. And Scorpio is more of a fixed energy. Once it decides something, it's really hard to move. Once it's blocked something, this is the case of the Scorpio moon. Once it's decided, that feeling is dead to them. It's hard to get it back up and aware. In the moon sign of our emotional security, how we can become emotionally vulnerable and open to healing and really sharing all of our experiences and feelings without leaving anything hidden, to really connect and feel intimate with another, can get stuck sometimes in Scorpio, because the scorpion in the image here is the scorpion that would rather sting itself if it's not going to win than to let someone else finish them. That's part of the power of the Scorpio image, is see how the Scorpio will never want to be that vulnerable where someone else could really destroy them. So the positive here is that a Scorpio moon person has the ability for great transformation. The Pluto ruled sign is the ability to transform, to take any emotional pain, which is usually the case here, and transform it into this wonderful gift of learning what vulnerability is, and not only being the person to help other people, but be the person to receive help from other people. And it's a journey, because sometimes the Scorpio moon person is always used to there being some type of emotional condition to their attachments. The moon is associated with the mother, and in this case, sometimes it doesn't have to be mom, but it's the person that you first felt that intimate connection to, the first person that you fully relied on completely for the care of your emotional needs, which is usually the mother person in your life. The Scorpio situation, it can still be a very loving relationship, but sometimes there's this emotional manipulation, emotional, sometimes neglect, sometimes overlooked, sometimes just not supported in the depths that the Scorpio moon needs. The Scorpio moon people are very emotional people. Sometimes they have that outer skeleton that is hard, and it makes it seem like that's not the case, but really deep down they are, and they learn fast who can handle that and who cannot. And if somebody close to them cannot, then they will just cut that part off of them so that they don't have to appear vulnerable or soft. In your case, you have a Pisces sun and a Scorpio moon, so that's a little bit of an easier way to handle this. In your chart is actually a trine, which means that this is an area of comfort for you, your sun and your moon, your ego and your emotional security, your knee-jerk reactions are going to be in line with each other. A Pisces sun understands that the emotional range is a big one, and there's room for all of the Scorpio moon's feelings in the consciousness. So it's a little easier for you to bring anything that you want to hide in the conscious shadow. It's easier for Pisces sun to let in the Scorpio moon. So for you, I feel like it's only just another tool for you to be able to share your story with somebody else, and them to appreciate that you're a safe space for their energy too. It's just where the ascendant and the moon, sometimes a Gemini ascendant and a Scorpio moon, are not always the easiest to have in a big three. They're on different levels. But for you, you have this really faint line here. I don't know if you can see it. So the fainter it is, it's the wider the orb. But it still is a trine. It's a trine to your Pluto and your ascendant. So that's pretty significant, because you have a you have a Scorpio moon and you have a Scorpio Pluto. You have a lot of interaction with your Pluto and that is the ruler of Scorpio. So, although on paper it sometimes sounds like it would be challenging in your actual chart, this is why the whole chart matters. It really does actually work together. They work together. They're getting things done through this energy. So your Gemini rising might just have a little more intensity in it than other Gemini rising people. You might have this magnetism of the Pluto dispositor in your chart, that you just have this magnetic energy. So your Gemini rising kind of dims its power a little bit, and you become more of this Plutonian energy in your chart anyway. I was going to wait a little bit to talk about that, but now I get rambling and it's here. So in the chart, you have these lords of the signs, and they are the planet's ruler of the sign. In your chart, the only planet here that is actually in the sign of its rulership is Pluto for you. And while that doesn't, it's not, a lot of people have many, but for you, it's the only one. It's called the sole dispositor. And so then for you, it's the final dispositor, because it's the only planet that actually listens to itself directly. This is important for your chart, because all of these, you have a lot of planets that talk to Pluto. You have many aspects in your chart that all go back to Pluto. And as the sole dispositor, it means that your Pluto is really running the show a lot. And although you have, a Gemini rising, a Pisces sun, and a Scorpio moon, you have the Pluto that is going to kind of flavor all of that. So while these things take on powers in your chart, the Pluto one kind of has the final say, and it's the one that's going to really influence the drive and the energy of what they're doing. So for an example, although you have a Pisces sun, your Pluto energy is going to come through that too. So you have a emotional ability to go with the flow of scenes and really take on different people's energies. But with this Pluto influence, it's kind of like you still have this demanding energy about you, that somehow, where these other mutable energies might get kind of lost in where they're going with things, because there's so many different options available to them. The Pluto in you still has this focus and this drive and this vision of where it really is supposed to be, where it wants to gain control of a certain area. And with it being the only planet that does this, and what we would call the Pluto energy usually is an outer energy, but in your chart, it's really a powerful energy. It has so many aspects to it. And it's, as I said before, the sole dispositor of your chart. You just have this intensity about you, and almost it touches everything that you do. So that is like there's this higher calling, this desire to really make a mark on things, and it can lead to a really obsessive mind. You can really focus and accomplish things with this energy. It's very powerful. It's very magnetic. It draws people in, and it lets people really feel like you have this magnetic energy of, I need to listen to her. I need to do what she is saying. I feel like I can trust her emotionally, because it's in Scorpio. It's this, I feel some type of emotional connection. I can trust that she has a real purpose here, and she's trying to get something accomplished. She's trying to transform. I need to give her the authority over this. So Pluto is about control, can be obsession, can be about transformation. Really, it's about power, purpose, something that needs to be done. It needs to happen. It's a transformation. It's a Scorpio ruler of determination and sometimes tunnel vision of a calling, of a spiritual energy. I'm going to jump over some of those personal planets because that's also your tightest orb here is your Chiron and your MC square. So the really bright red line that jumps out at you. It hits me with the same vibe here for having this like lighter energy of the sun and the ascendant, which is great. There's this other layer of you that's really about spiritual transformation and a Chiron in the 12th house and Taurus. So that's our pain, like the healer because they've been wounded. Chiron is the one that what hurt us actually helps heal others. And in the sign of Taurus, sometimes it's about value or it could be about our body. Sometimes it's related with a lower self-esteem because of something that happened or the feedback of others somewhere along the way, just feeling like there was a less than situation when it comes to either beauty or physical appearance. Sometimes it can be about having or not having enough resources. But more often, I feel like it's connected to the values of the person's inner self esteem. So, but it could also be material. But in the 12th house, it makes me feel like it's more of a spiritual wound. And when we're not feeling like we bring value to a situation by being there, it could be a retreating into a 12th house of suppressing the self. That's why I'm getting that, but it could not be. It could be something different. This is just my feeling on your chart. Then squaring the MC, but where your sun is in the MC, you're destined to be in some type of public spotlight, but there's some kind of wound that made you feel like you were not able to, or no one wanted to hear what you need to say, or something wasn't valued about you and it made you feel less than. It's squaring the MC. It's a powerful square. It's saying that actually the gift of the pain here is actually what helps you get to the highest aspiration of your chart when you become aware and you are open and vulnerable and honest. You get there, your sun is happy, your consciousness is happy. You're becoming this highest potential of yourself. And the kicker here is that it's all Pluto driven. And Pluto is the Scorpio energy that is influencing the moon's desire to kind of hide those pains. And with the gift of your Pisces sun in good relation in that trine of your Scorpio moon, it's saying, no, you're safe here. Share our story, share what happened, share maybe what it was just a subconscious fear. 12th house could be things that maybe never even actually happened. Maybe they were a fear, a dream, a suppressed worry. 12th house is kind of that Pisces portal of it could be a different reality, a spiritual channeling, some type of download of pain. All of these could be an open possibility to that Chiron wound. Taurus just makes me think values, the physical body, something about maybe not feeling the beauty. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Sometimes there's a societal view of beauty or worth that was somehow suppressed in the 12th house. You didn't feel like it was something that was going to be achievable for you. But when you realize that that's not true and you are beautiful and you do have something important and of value to share with the public, the MC, the public, it's through the challenge of overcoming that and letting your fear of that being expressed or really healing it, because it takes work to heal those things. But then our Pluto is like, but this is the transformation. The transformation to the public is realizing that the worth is there and it is not to be hidden. It is to be publicly portrayed, and it will be a transformation of what you thought you could never do. So that I feel like is the whole chart talking to me. And it's really about overcoming whatever was suppressed in the beginning and making it public. So whether or not you want to be a public figure, it looks like that's where Pluto's kind of pulling you to get comfortable with. And Chiron is not always a big player in people's charts, and it's your tightest orb for an aspect. So I would say that's important. Okay, so for the sake of time, let's get back to the little three now. So we have talked about your big three. Your big three and Pluto, because I feel like all this work together, they are the most important thing in the consciousness. Pluto is usually not, but yours is talking to Pluto so much, your whole story relates to being steered by Pluto. So it needs to be in conversation with your big three, in my opinion. Lesser personality drives would be looking at how you communicate. I was happy to see that your Mercury is in an air sign. So Aquarius, I feel like it's a little bit of a different energy than the Gemini or Virgo Mercury in its natural happy spot. Since you are a Gemini rising, your Mercury should really be the biggest influence. It's your chart ruler, right? So I would, in any other chart, go there. What's happening with Mercury? How powerful is it? Well, it's in a square to your Saturn. So there can be delayed ability to communicate to the public since the Mercury is right there by the MC. It could be that you somehow felt like your message either wasn't ready or you needed time and maturity and experience to get there before you could share what would really be of value to being a notable signed by you, what your communication signature would be. There's a delay because you needed to experience these things in life. You needed to collect the data. You needed to be able to have something worth saying. And Saturn wanted to make sure that you gave it time before you just started sharing things that were not ready. There's a maturity there that needed to be found. So although it's a square, it's actually a gift because you don't want to. And in what your chart looks like, where your Sun and Mercury are at the top, you aspire to be known for who you are and what you have to say. So it's actually a gift to me that Saturn was squaring your Mercury because it kind of pulled you back. It slowed that down. You didn't want to start doing what you're going to be known for until you were going to be mature enough to handle it and really feel like that encompasses who you are. So here I would say that's actually a gift. But I still don't think Mercury is as powerful in your chart as Pluto is. So I still think that it's this powerful force of feeling like you're being called to do something spiritually, publicly powerful to transform people on the whole is what I feel like you're being pulled to do, but you're using those tools to connect with people. The air in your chart is to bring people together. So Mercury in Aquarius is very powerful for you because now you're bringing in people of all different walks of life. Aquarius is about telling people you can still be in our group even though you're different. I love that. Be different. Come here. I have something to tell you. And what better sign to do that than a Mercury in Aquarius? That's the message. I'm different. You're different. We can both be here and learn something and share a story. And it goes so beautifully with your Gemini rising because that's what Gemini rising is also doing. It's just doing it in a less rebellious way. But Aquarius is proud of being different and is looking for people who are different too. So that is in your ninth house. So I wouldn't be surprised if you have higher education or you are just an active learner on your own. You know, traditional ways of accolades may not be your thing. Aquarius is quite rebellious. It's not looking for any kind of pedigree. It's just would love to learn for the sake of learning. Venus would be the next one. So your planet of love or discernment is what I usually like to go by. We develop a taste through Venus. It's not an unconditional love. It's that I like that because I don't like this. This is how I act in love. I don't appreciate acting this way. is my love signature. In Aquarius is the sign of your Mercury. So there's a nice way of liking to get to know someone through intellectual pursuits, having a variety of friends, becoming friends, then lovers, not being too quick to be emotionally attached to someone, and letting them come to you slowly and deliberately, and being able to screen through quick people who are just looking for flings, because Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn. And Saturn, although an air sign, Saturn doesn't want to be in a short relationship. So we're going to look to your Mars for the last one, your ambitions. So also in Scorpio, you have all these signs in Scorpio because Pluto is driving the ship here. So you're just very focused, motivated, and sorry, my kids in the background. And just there's not going to be so much variety in what your actual goals are. You probably have a very clear goal in mind of what you want to get accomplished. You just might have a variety of people and ideas of how to get there. But I think it's a solid goal. And I think you have a real tunnel vision focus of an ambition to accomplish tasks. Let's see, for time, I think I'm going to stop here. I feel like we've conquered most of what I wanted to talk about. Oh, actually, I did want to speak on your nodes. Sometimes it's nice to take these videos in two parts so that you don't feel like it's too much information at once. But I'll finish here. You can always stop it on your own. But I did want to finish the nodes. So like I said, if you need to watch this in two parts, feel free. It's a lot of information. But I don't think it's worth doing a chart reading if you don't talk about the nodes. So in this life, or most evolutionary astrologers believe a past life, you collected a certain skill set, you were very good at it, you mastered it, your soul wanted to accomplish it, you checked it off, you were so confident in it that you carried it over into this world as a positive trait for you to kind of get a head start on things. So for you, that was in the sign of Sagittarius in the 6th house. That makes you a very wise person. You're somebody that can come off as, like a fake it till you make it kind of person. You just have this optimism and this confidence in getting the job done. 6th house is work, routine. You might get lucky at getting jobs. People might just want to see how you do things because you seem so confident. You seem so lucky at work. Like you can get what you need. You can make it happen. If something goes wrong, you can figure it out. You're quick on your feet. People look to you in like the way an apprentice would look to the skilled carpenter. They feel like you've been doing this for years. You got this. Well, your North Node in the 12th house is saying, okay, on this actual physical reality plane of the 6th house, yes, I'm very good at what I'm doing. I can handle this. I can teach others. I can provide a service. I am golden. But that's not really where my soul's desire is in this life. My soul desire is to kind of let all that go, even though maybe I would have been successful that way. And I want to travel over into the world of spirituality of the 12th house, of what we cannot see, where there is no real path. It's just this ambiguous realm. And I want to be the student this time. I want to learn what the heck all that could be. And I want to take it all in and experience many different ways of spirituality. And I want to help be part of like the healing of other people who are spiritually connected, who might be less fortunate than I am, the sick, the suffering. I really want to be there. I want to be doing something that isn't always seen and isn't always talked about. And maybe I'm not naturally good at, but I feel called to it. And I feel like there's other people that feel the same way as me, and I want to meet them and I want to do this together. It's kind of the Gemini, the variety, the meeting people, the connecting. Let's talk about this and let's do it all together in the 12th house of whatever's left over of humanity too. Like, who are the people that we have forgotten about, or the the spiritual energies that could really help people by the boatload? And what is our collective consciousness doing? Are we really trying to raise this vibe together? We're really getting the message out. We're really providing spiritual healing to all of us. So it's like really big questions, but not in the Sagittarian light of I just want to get wise and know everything so I can, um, share it with people. It's kind of in this student way of I never want to stop learning this, and I want to be able to bring it into an everyday practice. I want to be in touch with my spiritual side so well that I can make it part of my everyday and then bring it out into everyday of other people without them even feeling like I'm being preachy. It's just because of who I am and I'm so connected spiritually that everybody I come in contact with casually can feel it too and then be connected also. So it's really cool gift for a Pisces sun to have that because you kind of naturally spread your spirituality anyway, whether or not you know it or your North Node actually wanting to go there. It's like, hey, this feels good. I want to do that more, but I don't want to be like arrogant or self righteous. I want to do it in a day to day, um, you know, conversationally and making this into something that can be part of everyone's regular life and it doesn't have to come out in a specific dogma. It is a variety of ways to get spiritually connected, and let's not focus so much on the dogma. Let's focus on experiencing each other and opening connections however you can access them. So I think that's a really cool um, North Node, South Node placement. So you also have a kite in your chart and you have like a few trines going on. I try to talk about the aspects as much as I could, but for the sake of time, I feel like we covered most of them. The kite here is faint, but if I really look at it, so a kite is a trine that has an opposition going through it. And it usually has sextiles on the top. So you think about a kite flying through the air. This would be the top of it. This would be the bottom. The trine is your gift. Your gifts include your Pluto, which is very powerfully steering your ship here. Like I said, I don't know why I'm saying ship chart, but the opposition here is the important part. So where you're opposing your Capricorn Neptune here, it is the part of you that helps bring the challenge to bring your blessings through. So the trines are what's easy. You don't want to get caught up in being like any of these things being easy. So your ascendant to your MC, including what looks like your MC, your ascendant, and you have one to Pluto. You might have one to your moon. It's all of this like you like who you are, people like you, and that's great. I think that's wonderful. But is that too easy? Your chart saying like, yes, you have a magnetic personality. People like you. You have something great to say, and people feel better for being around you. So that's a wonderful situation. But if you're really going to get things accomplished, like you need to, then there needs to be a little challenge here. So it's wanting to throw some confusion your way. So Neptune can be kind of our dreamland or disillusionment. It can also be addiction. It can be people who don't have clear boundaries with you. It can be just confusion in like the direction of what you're supposed to be doing. Um, so here in the sign of Capricorn in your seventh house, I would say that kind of comes from partnerships. It can also be great romantic love, right? Neptune co-rules Pisces, so it's not a bad thing. Your sun is in Pisces. You might have great romantic partners or ideas of what you would like in a partner, but it looks like there's a love interest in your life that comes through. There's confusion in that department, or is it the confusion that you would rather settle down and be with somebody and play house and do this great like public um vocation that you thought you were called to do? Is there room for both? Is it is it something that your partnerships that you get involved with, sometimes the people can't provide the stability that you're looking for? I wouldn't say that, because in Capricorn, I feel like stability is not usually the problem, but Capricorn, Neptune as a seventh house could mean maybe there's confusion with like their ability to be like an equal partner. Sometimes with the Capricorn energy, maybe is it too much of an authoritarian? Are you coming in as equals, or does that need to be figured out? Is are the people you're attracted to too much of a realist that they can't feel out like how you actually are really spiritually connected? Is there this need for you to always feel like you need to do more? Are you looking for a more solid um, act of affirmation from them? The Neptune can just be blurry, it can be confusing, and it can be disillusionment. So you meet someone and then you realize, oh, like that's not actually who I thought they were. And I was ready to throw it all to just spend my life with them. It could come up as different things too, but a kite involves so many planets. It's like it's worth just looking at that opposition opposing your ascendant. Are you really being, when you meet and you're in a partnership with somebody, are you really coming across clear about what you want, or are you confusing them? Are you giving yourself enough time to really think about what it is? Your Aquarius Venus wants friendships first, usually, or that's not a super jump in fast, but the Gemini rising can jump in fast. And now I'm wondering, do you give off the impression more that you're either wanting something longer or not? The other person is then unsure. Then in return, you become unsure because they were. See the confusion? There's like a back and forth disconnect. So I would just say, in love, pause and see, where things settle. That would be a place where I wouldn't always jump in really quickly, because there can be confusions about things. You also have Jupiter in the seventh house, so your partners tend to be larger than life to you. They bring you great blessings. So there is an urge there to want to jump in fast, because it can be so overwhelmingly beneficial and like pleasant and joyful experience for you and adventurous. And but that can also lead to that confusion then. So it's a lot of adventure and excitement and romance, but it's the opposition of the Gemini ascendant. I think the Gemini ascendant doesn't want you to lose your head, right? Like you're still a very intellectual person while you have a lot of love to give. Maybe take it a little slower so that you can still actualize your full potentials of your chart without losing sight of where that kite is really flying to. That both are important and both need to happen, because that's where your energies are. But there's enough room to do it all and to use all of your skill sets to have really purposeful, meaningful relationships and a purposeful, meaningful vocation. Because Pluto and all that Scorpio energy doesn't do anything lightly, it's fully committed to things. So it fully wants you to have a public position, and it fully wants you to experience energy in partnerships. So you will do both. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. They will work together. And when you're in places of not thinking that can come true, you want to think back to, how are you coming off at first? How's your ascendant and your partnerships aligning? Are we really able to portray what we're really looking for before someone has the impression or gets confused? Okay, I'm going to stop here because I feel like that was a lot. But let me know if you have any questions, if something wasn't clear, if you were hoping I would go over something else. I'm happy to answer anything or clarify if I was rambling too much. Thanks so much for your interest, and I will let you know as soon as it's up.